I'm not here to teach you what to think. I'm here to teach you how to think. When I first started to experiment with swinging and open relationships, I made a very grave error. I was actually very open with certain people about it that I should not have been open with. And I faced incredible stigma. I'll tell you a little story. I was talking with one of my bosses. I had told her about my internet radio show because she seemed very open-minded about things. And when I initially told her, she says, "Wow, this is so interesting. This is so great. This is so wonderful." And, she saw that I had interviewed some swingers. She saw that I had interviewed some polyamorous people. She saw that I had covered a variety of topics on BDSM. And then one day, she comes into work and she's frustrated as all hell about something. And I don't know what. Maybe she had a fight with somebody, or maybe she had problems with her husband. I don't know what the issue was. But when she came into work that day, she was just in the foulest mood. And she made it a point to say, those people you interview on your radio show, there's something wrong with them. They're not mentally well. They think they're mentally imbalanced. And she went on and on to berate the different guests I had on the show. And what I wanted to do was tell her to go fuck herself. But I also have to realize that, my employee evaluation is coming up. I need this job. They just raised my rent, so I got to be really careful here. So I just looked at her and I said, well, the people involved are different. That's what makes them interesting. That's why I interview them. It's important to interview different people. No, but there's something wrong with them, she says. My guess is that something had happened in her life that she didn't share that was threatening the nature of her relationship. That's my guess. I really don't know. But she needed someone to vent at. She needed a target. And there I was, being honest about something that had nothing to do with her, and I became that target. Later on, when it came time for me to leave that job, we had it out. But up until that point, I had to be very careful. Why? Because sometimes people will have certain power and authority over you, and if they don't like a particular aspect of you that goes beyond just your personality but goes on to your lifestyle, yes, they can't fire you, but they can make your life somewhat unpleasant at times. So do you always have the option to fight? Yes, you do. But you also have to remember that even if you fight and you win, as long as you have to continue to associate with somebody, and it's not like a friend who lives in another part of town that if you decide you cut off that friendship, you don't have to see that person again. When you're in a work situation and you have to see the person regularly, you have to be very, very aware to be careful who you share your private thoughts with. It has nothing to do with how good a person you are. It has nothing to do with the fact that you actually would rather live a much more honest lifestyle by doing this. It has to do with the fact that you may very well be a threat to everything that they have invested their lives into. When it comes to sexual orientation, you really have to know yourself, and if you have limited sexual experience, then getting committed into any relationship is unfair. It's unfair to you, but it's also very unfair to the partner you're with. One woman who I dated, and she was one of my best girlfriends. She was originally married to a man, and they were married for 5 years or so. And then one day he comes to the conclusion that he's gay. And they divorce. She was still madly in love with him. But he was gay. I have a deep resentment and anger for her. She invested her entire life. She invested everything into making a marriage work with that guy. And that's when he realizes, all of a sudden he comes to this revelation. She still is feeling devastation from something like that. You have an obligation to figure out your own sexual orientation before you get into any sort of committed relationship with anybody. Getting into a committed relationship with someone means that they're investing in you. And if you have any doubt, stay out. That's my rule about monogamous relationships. Actually, that's also my rule for committed relationships within open relationships. So let's say that you're in an open relationship with someone, but the two of you want to form a primary bond and still be in an open relationship. You're still looking to make some form of a commitment there. And the rule of commitment is always the same when it comes to the Frank B. Kermit theories. When you have doubt, stay out. You have any doubts about making a commitment to somebody, don't make the commitment. It's that simple. You know, it surprises me when I see couples are together and when they find out that I do some relationship counseling, they start asking me all kinds of questions that make me realize that maybe they shouldn't even be together because they have so many of their own questions that they should be answering. When it comes to commitment, whether in monogamous relationships or open relationships, when in doubt, stay out. If you have any doubt whatsoever, don't bother. Set the person free. They have a right to find a soulmate. They have the right to go out and find happiness. They have a right to an amazing relationship. You have a right to find an amazing relationship. And if you have any doubts about the relationship you're in right now, walk away, set the person free. That's your obligation. Setting a person free when you have doubts about the relationship is part about being an ethical seducer. It's part about being an ethical seductress. Making a commitment when you have doubts about making that commitment is simply making a promise you don't intend to keep. You see, one of the things we're going to be talking about later in this lecture is how to structure an open relationship. But the fact is, when I was structuring open relationships, I came from the point of view of